Mr. Fox, at some point you indicated you might have an amendment. Is that still the case? Then you may come forward, and if you are making an amendment, we need copies. Mr. Fox, is this the same? Mr. Fox, can I have a copy first so I can talk to town meeting about it? I just want to make sure it's the same as what you sent me. Okay. So I want to get a couple sort of language technical things clear. What we see before us on the screen, it's not a motion in terms of the article, but it's still the main motion under Article 21. It's the motion that was made under Article 21. Mr. Fox is going to be proposing an amendment to that motion. It's going to be on the screen, he's going to make it, and then he's going to speak to it. And then the discussion will be on the pros and cons of the amendment. And the first vote we have is whether or not to accept the amended motion. If that vote passes, then there's a new main motion on the floor. If that vote fails, then this existing main motion is still on the floor. So there's going to be at least two more votes. One, whether or not to accept this amended motion, and then a second vote to vote on what's on the floor after that first vote. I'll explain again when we get closer, because some of you look pretty terrifyingly bewildered as I'm looking. But I'm going to have Mr. Fox proceed now. I hear a point of order. Nothing's happened yet, but...
Tracy Lee Boutillier, Precinct 6. Article 22 was showing.
Okay, let's wait until he makes his motion, then we'll make sure the right thing's on the screen, because no one... yeah, but it should be Article 21, you're right. But let's hear what Mr. Fox has to say.
Can I wait until it's on the screen, please?
Sure. Can we get Mr. Fox's... Okay, working.
Thank you.
You can identify yourself while you're waiting.
Yes, I'm John Fox from Precinct 10. Pardon? Oh, that would be fine. So, here it is.
Just put that top sheet on the overhead.
So that's it.
Can we shrink it just a tiny bit?
I think you told me I get 5 minutes. Is that correct?
First, you don't get anything until you make a motion, so
first
make a motion.
I move in terms of the article provided further that the maximum property tax incentive shall be the difference in net operating income for such development after all federal and state taxes with affordable units, and the net operating income after all federal and state taxes without such affordable units. And may I ask for a total of 5 minutes?
Hang on a second. Do I hear a second? Okay, so you have made a motion. It's been seconded. You now have 5 minutes to speak to your motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. That's a mouthful up there for you to look at, but I think you'll soon get the point. We all agree upon the goal to encourage the maximum number of affordable units in these large projects, but to limit the tax incentive to the actual loss that a developer has by including affordable units. In short, the maximum tax abatement should never exceed an amount necessary to make the developer whole, as Mr. Pooler said, in exchange for providing affordable units. We're not here to increase the profits of the developer beyond that. But neither the original Article 21 nor the amendment that's proposed by the Select Board accomplish that. They go too far. Read literally, the Article 21 that you had before you, before the town's amendment, would allow tax relief for a $10 million project on the entire project. Not just the 10% of units that are affordable units, which cost the money. That's an extraordinary thing. That would have been an enormous windfall for the developers. Last Monday, 6 of us met with Mr. Musanti, Mr. Zomek, Mr. Pooler, and Ms. Brestrup to voice our concerns and to urge the town to limit the relief to the actual loss incurred by the developer because of incurring including affordable units. And you now have the town's effort to address that. The problem, it fails to take into account the federal and state income taxes the developer would have had on the extra income it would have received before having to build the affordable units. So the formula substantially still overcompensates the developer. For example, I'll use larger figures just because they're easier to look at. Let's assume that before income taxes, a developer could show that it would have had a net additional net operating income of $100,000 without the affordable units. By the town's formula, the maximum tax abatement would be $100,000. But every developer knows, and I represented lots of developers and corporations in my 35 years of practicing law, that any profits are subject to federal and state taxes. And that what the developer has at the end of the day is not the difference between the net operating income before and after affordable units, but the net operating income after the taxes they pay. For example, if the combined federal and state income taxes on that $100,000 were $25,000, the potential gain without affordable units would be $75,000 after income taxes. That, it seems to me, should be the maximum abatement, the maximum amount needed in property tax abatement to make the developer whole, to come out even. Consider this simple example. A corporation of architects has $100,000 of net operating income at the end of the year. This is apart from inclusionary zoning. And it's meeting to decide what to do with that $100,000. Well, my guess is that no one would say, well, we can distribute that $100,000 to the stockholders as dividends. Somebody's going to raise their hand and say, but we're going to have to pay taxes on that $100,000. And we'll only have the amount net after taxes. That's the net final gain. Secondly, if that corporation owed $100,000 to a bank, and at the end of the year, the bank asks for the net operating income, and they show they have a net operating income of $100,000, the bank says, well, transfer the cash, it's in the bank, over to pay the loan. Well, you know the corporation could say, but we have to pay taxes on that amount. So in my example, you only have $75,000 left. Well, that should be true in this Article 21. A developer with $100,000 of net operating income knows that its true gain for the year is not $100,000. It's the $100,000 less the taxes that they would have to pay. In short, we should not be paying, reimbursing, giving abatement for taxes that the developer has to pay. We're not going to reimburse the developer for the taxes, only for the loss they incur after taxes. Now, many of you may believe that Article 21 simply doesn't make sense, and then you would vote down both my amendment and the town's amendment. But if you believe in Article 21 as a vehicle for increasing the amount of affordable units, then make sure that what you're voting on is to make the developer whole, and make sure then that it is a calculation that takes into account that it's not the net operating difference that we're looking at, it's the net operating difference after taxes. Thank you very much.
I'm going to just clarify once again, the main motion that was proposed by the Select Board was on the screen earlier, and it's the same as this, except it doesn't have the phrase after all federal and state taxes, which exists twice. So here, that's a great graphic right there. So in black, you see the main motion, and in red you see the Fox amendment. What we're going to vote on first is whether or not to accept the Fox amendment. If we vote yes, then this becomes the main motion, including the red lettering. If we vote no on the Fox amendment, then what's back on the floor is the main motion, and the red lettering goes away. Are there questions about the process? Good. There'll be a quiz later, so we'll see if everybody really understands. Okay, Mr. Pooler. Oh, and I just should say, we should try and limit our discussion to the pros and cons of the amendment, and it is a majority vote whether or not to accept the amended motion. Is it a point of order, or is it a... Okay, good. Identify yourself.
Can you please clarify?
Identify yourself.
Oh, my name is Patricia Stacy, Precinct 10. Can you please clarify if the tax incentives apply in either of the two options now we have before us? Right now, I know we have one option before us, the Fox
Okay.
Amendment. Can you clarify? Does the tax incentive apply to an entire building or only to the low
Okay, I'm
income?
going to stop you now, because I will clarify that that is not a point of order. That's a question to be asked if you're recognized from the floor of town meeting. It's not a process question. It's a question about how it all works. So that's a question for people to answer from the floor, but it's not a point of order
I
question.
don't know what I'm voting on.
Yes, and that's understood, but you're going to listen to the discussion and hopefully figure it out. It's not a point of order what it means or how it's going to work if you accept it. That's the point of the discussion and listening to the speakers. Mr. Pooler.